Hello, this is Lisa Russick with the podcast We Are All Psychic, and today we have a really cool guest and we've tried to get this together and we're got it going. Victoria, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me today, Lisa. I think we're going to have a good time.
I think we're going to have a great time. Now, Victoria, first of all, I have to ask you, do you think we're all psychic?
Oh, I absolutely think that we're all psychic.
Absolutely. Now, how'd you get there? Why do you think that?
Well, I believe that, first, I believe that we all come here on planet Earth to learn different lessons. I believe that we are inherently all souls that come here with unique experiences that we came to heal and evolve. And I believe that fundamentally, all of our souls have natural gifts and abilities.
I do
The
too.
ability to be able to see and hear and understand what things actually are in truth. I think our soul is the embodiment of truth, and the human is the story and the conditioning and the patterning and the lineage and the memory. But really,
Yeah.
our soul holds memory too. It just holds the memory of truth.
Yes, I love that. And something I've always kind of thought is like with free will and destiny, like our destiny and free will aren't about actions or things or stuff that happens. It's more about how we evolve inside. Like I agree, like I have the same belief system you do that we come in with the like intention of learning stuff. And
Yes.
we may or may not learn it, but we'll try again if we didn't, I guess,
Totally. And I think a lot of souls, especially in this life particularly, I think that we have more of a burning desire
Yes.
to remember who we are, maybe than any other life, simply due to the nature of where we're at in our ascension and the nature of where we're at on a planetary level. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard being asleep, but it is also very hard to be awake and to see what's
Yeah.
truly happening in the world. And
Yes.
being
You can
psychic
feel
in the
it.
world, totally, you can feel things so much differently. I mean, it's way easier to be a victim and be unconscious and to live in your own kind of bubble because everything is just coincidence and
Yeah.
randomness. But then
Yeah.
when everything has meaning and everything is connected to something bigger, life becomes this giant Jenga puzzle that now you understand actually is not
Does.
random.
Jenga puzzle. Oh, that's perfect. Yes, it is a Jenga puzzle. I love Jenga, so that's a great
Right?
analogy.
As opposed to like, I'm just playing this game. It's like, oh, whoa, this is a game, and the way that I play it actually matters a lot. And now I feel so much more than I did before. So it's like all
Yeah,
the lights are turning on in the house. And now I
yeah.
have to be more mindful of the way that I'm playing the game.
That's so true. That is true. And having that mindfulness, we can make our lives better with it. Yeah,
Totally.
and other people's lives ultimately will get better if we're doing like stuff not like I'm going to rob a bank because that's going to make my life better. It probably won't, but you might think that. But like I love what you're saying there because that mindset can, if for me anyway, I really changed my mindset a lot in my early 20s, 30s, like mid 30s,
Yeah.
and I started like just shaping my thoughts and being able to control the way I was thinking and shifting from like a depressed kind of like negative mindset to
Yeah.
really like happy positive place within myself. But it was changing these thought patterns that I had built all my life. Like I suck, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve anything. No one taught me that. It was
Yeah.
just I think it was my empathy in like when I hit puberty and I didn't know what it was. No one
Mm,
ever taught me. So were you ever taught this stuff early? I mean, when did you find about like empath and
yeah.
psychic? And I mean, you've always been around it, or is it something new that you just found on your own?
Well, as a child, I actually had psychic experiences, but I didn't know that I had psychic experiences until I had had my awakening at 25, so about 6 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
And so when I went back in time, such as asking my parents about some of my behaviors as a child, when, children are awake and unfiltered and completely conscious and
Yes.
not yet, indoctrinated into
They don't
society.
know what they're not supposed to do.
Yeah, totally. And therefore they
Quote
know who
unquote,
they are.
listeners.
Then they know who they are. And when I was about 2 and 3 years old, I would talk about being able to see my deceased grandfather. And ironically enough, my grandfather was the first spirit that I actually connected with consciously when I
And
had my
knowing.
spiritual awakening.
Oh my gosh, that is so
Yeah.
cool. Do you
But
remember?
prior, yep.
I was just going to ask, do you remember when you were little, what kind of things he would say to you? Do you remember?
So beautifully enough, when I began to connect with him in meditation, completely sovereignly, like there was no there was no invocation. He was just this presence that I started to feel that at the time I did not associate with my grandfather. I just thought I was getting deep into meditation.
Yeah.
Feel him on the left side of my body, like this breath of air. Every time I'd meditate, I'd feel this breath. And I was like, what is that? Like, this is weird. So
Yeah.
naturally, the skeptic in all of us that questions if we're psychic then has to test it, right? So now the
Oh,
human comes
definitely.
in and I'm like, try to meditate in different places to see if like that breath is still there.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
Right?
idea.
But wouldn't you believe that it was?
Yeah.
And then finally, after kind of putting my skepticism through the ringer and trying to meditate in different places and still feeling this presence, finally a voice came through and said, I am your grandfather. I am your spirit guide, and I've been with you your whole life. And so when I went and asked my mother about it, since it was my mother's father, and I knew that for certain since my other grandfather is still alive.
Yeah. That'll
And
do
it. And I
it.
asked my mother about it. She said, you would always point to the left side of anybody's body and say, Grandpa's here, Grandpa's here.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's so
So that
cool.
was like massive confirmation for me. And then after all of that had happened, then I had started my business. But previously, when I had been growing up, I found myself in arts. So I was a singer as a young child. I was in performance and plays and things that allowed me to be able to take that empathy, take that expression totally and put it into something. I truly believe that most actors and artists are the clairsentients, the psychics that just don't know what to do with what they feel.
Yes,
And so it's
I've
just like
said that
us.
on this podcast. Every actor, a good actors, great actors are great empaths, and they usually
100,
feel
you
really
have to.
greats. I think they know it. I think they
Well,
do, or they
I
know
believe
something.
too.
They can
Well,
project this energy onto. They can project something on into film, into people's hearts, into people's
yes.
minds.
Well, it's kind of like how we channel, right? So they have to be able to tap into the channel of whatever this character is and be
Yeah.
able to embody that character. The issue that I had found in my career, though, having worked with many very successful actors, was the ability to turn it off.
Oh,
It
yes. That's what I
started to
saw
be,
on your website too. You do like
yeah,
mention that listeners and watchers. This is a video podcast on Spotify and YouTube. I was looking at her website, where I always like refresh myself right before a podcast. And she does say right on her website that the protect yourself, right in the beginning, like near like the top.
yeah,
She really encourages us to learn the protection. And that is like very important because
it
other energies will
is.
come in. We won't know what's going on. Yeah. So tell your experiences of teaching that and how you learned how and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd love to
So
hear.
when I had initially connected with my grandfather, end of 2019, early 2020, I was living on a cruise ship playing a Disney princess.
Oh, which one?
I was Mary
Beauty.
Poppins.
Belle. You were
I
Mary
was
Poppins.
totally
I
Belle.
was I was pegging you as a Belle, man. You were such a Belle.
I was
You
playing
could be a
Belle
Mary
too.
Poppins. That's so awesome, though. Oh, I bet you were singing and did you have the umbrella?
Oh, I had the umbrella. I
Such
had
a
a
great job.
traumatizing experience with the umbrella. They fly, Mary Poppins flies in. I have to hold a position and then they put me in the harness. And as I was going up for my flight, I got caught in some wires. And
No.
you have a contingency. You have to basically like wave the umbrella down and be like, come help me, come help me. And all the
Okay.
stage hands were like, oh my God. And I was supposed to go on stage in like 30 seconds on the other side of the stage. And so they put me down. I had a full trauma response and I ran to the other side of the stage and entered last minute and then sang supercalifragilistic while I'm in a trauma
You're in a trauma response.
and I'm in
Oh my
a
God.
harness. It was the worst. It was the worst experience.
I
Yeah.
bet it was I bet everyone there thought it was great though.
The fact that Mary Poppins still showed up is what matters, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you learn, one of the first things you learn in theater is the show must go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it taught me the resilience,
That's so cool. And I learned that in music too. When you mess up, you just keep on rhythm and on key, hopefully.
You do. You
it
do.
worked out.
And I've had some very weird experiences where like I'll be singing and then completely forget the lyrics. And then in 8th grade, I was portraying Peter Pan and I fell off the stage during a show.
No.
And got 8 stitches in my shin.
Oh my gosh.
And still performed the show 2 hours later.
Yes.
So yeah, my understudy was like, are you okay? Like, I'll go on and I got my lines. And I was like, if you think that Peter Pan gives up after a little bruise. No.
No, Peter Pan. No, he gets scrapes
No.
all the time.
Peter Pan flies. Okay.
I was about to say, you like these flying roles. You like to be up there and like, woo.
Which is
You get
so
dangerous
funny.
roles.
It's funny now because I'm actually scared of heights and I don't even know where that came from, honestly.
I wonder, trauma response to in Mary Poppins, and maybe the show does go on, but the trauma response maybe, still goes on too.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I had never thought about that because it was something that just started in my like this past year. It's like suddenly.
Really? I've always been afraid of heights. They give me the vertigo. Like I look down.
Yeah.
Feel like I'm going over like if I'm on a tall building or something and look down.
Yeah. that's a new experience for me.
Yeah.
But to our earlier point, I started my business in 2020 when I had my grandfather connection, and I began really working with just divination tools. I think that's something that most people are guided to in the beginning, right? Tarot, oracle, astrology, just really kind of flirting with the spirit world.
Yeah, the divination tools kind of help us like realize there's cycles and stuff like that,
absolutely.
about ourselves, stuff about ourselves.
Like, confirm what I already knew to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So helpful for validation.
It is.
But what ended up happening was that I started to become very dependent on different tools.
Yeah.
I started to become dependent on getting messages from my guides. I started to become dependent on opening up my channel and connecting all the time. And I found out at the end of 2022 that I had multiple nefarious entity attachments.
Whoa. What happened? Who told you? How'd you find that out?
So I had found out from the only healer that I had actually respected and who had helped me in 2019. Yeah, like the only healer that I've ever trusted. And I found out because I would have recurring nightmares where I was getting woken up in the middle of the night, getting choked by something.
Oh my God.
And I had no recollection of it. And then suddenly 2 a.m, I'd wake up feeling like I was getting choked.
Did you feel like they were sitting on your chest by any chance?
It was actually.
I'm just curious because like the hag does that. Do you know who the hag is? Like,
no.
There people who have like sleep paralysis sometimes have the hag, and they'll feel like there's a hag. They call her a hag, but she's like an old witch, like an old gnarly hag, and she sits on their. They feel like she's sitting on their chest, and they can't move, and she's just in their face, just like.
Wow.
But she's not really there, but they feel her breathing.
But they perceive, yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's weird.
Mine felt a little bit different than that, but I had multiple psychic attacks when I would go to like new environments. And
really? Like what would happen?
Pardon me?
What would happen to you?
We were staying.
Some listeners will really relate to a lot of this, I think.
Totally. And it's something that's unfortunately still taboo. In our world of psychics, and it needs to become more normalized.
I agree.
People don't talk about like there is a flip side to being open.
You have to be careful.
Everything is out of the light. Yeah,
it's life. I mean, it's just like going out to a concert. There's bad guys. Opening your energy up. There's bad guys.
Yeah. And so in the Airbnb that we were staying at, I didn't know how to protect myself at all. I would just go to an Airbnb, light some sage, and that would be it.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up and feeling that, I guess you would call it the hag. Like it felt like I couldn't move. And I remember finally being able to like grab my partner's hand while all of these like very invasive, intrusive, very, very dark thoughts started to cloud my conscious mind.
That's the worst. That's the worst because you think they're yours and
it's
they
so
aren't,
hard
but
to
you think
know.
they are. You don't know. Yeah, it's just so.
It's spooky, right? Because people have been conditioned to not discern what is a nightmare, what is an ET nefarious attachment, what's an abduction, what's an actual demon, like what are these things?
Because like half of
anything.
I would love to say, I love saying this, half of the world, just about half the world, maybe they think that they don't know about this stuff. They just don't have any awareness that there is a difference, that there are things like attachments and entities that may want to drain our energy, our health and our happiness.
Yep.
If we have that open channel somewhere. So if some people don't even know this is like the energy work is real, and listeners, I think they all believe us and they all feel that way because they've had their experiences themselves, which is, ultimately what we have to have. I just don't want any listener to have that experience like you and I have had, where we have those thoughts. That's terrifying.
It is, especially when you feel vulnerable to it and you feel under-resourced. And I think that that was the big thing for me is like, I didn't have any resources to
I
help
didn't
me through
either.
it. And I didn't actually feel like the spiritual community was a safe space to talk about it. Like even to this day,
Yeah.
I've got a pretty significant community, which is a gift. But even as I'm trying to get my message out to the world, I feel like I'm trying to like push a camel through the eye of a needle.
Yeah.
Because the message sounds judgmental when I'm talking about the duality on this planet, or be talking about nefarious attachments feels in many ways like there's this.
Fear mongering or something, but it's not.
Yes,
It's
and it's
truthful.
not. It's just the truth
They
of
they they
a
don't
high
have the
vibrational being.
power. Yeah, like the entities that I know, I mean, they have the power to change the way we think or perceive or feel, but they can't actually, from what I mean, very few times have people told me like they physically were affected by an entity. They can't really do much from what I understand in the physical, but
Yeah,
the energies of these, whatever they may be, who knows what these entities are, listeners and watchers. There can be lots of different types of energies,
yeah.
and they can be spirits of anything. And like the hag is supposedly, from going way back. She's been in history for all forever, in sleep paralysis, and she used to be known as someone who would, I believe the mythology around her was that she was taking your breath. That's why
Oh,
you
that's
feel her
exactly what it
breath on
feels
your.
like, for
Yeah,
sure.
she's taking your breath, and
Wow.
and she's trying to scare you and take your life breath and your soul out of your breath,
Mm.
or something along those lines. That's
Mm.
like a mythology of her.
Yeah.
So even way back when, people used to think of this way. They used to
Yeah.
think of the entities being, scary, and something you can protect yourself against, though.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it just requires education, right?
Yes.
And so from that experience that I had had and actually having the fight of my life to try to get my truth back, basically, because it had impacted my
Oh yeah.
health and my finances and my mental state in such an accelerated way. After I had been cleared from them by the healer that had been supporting me, I was like, I cannot awaken the way that I had been awakening prior.
Yeah, you
You
gotta
know,
switch it up
it's
a
like
little. Yeah.
it's the time where you realize that you can't keep dating shitty people and like hope to find your life partner. Like
Yep.
I was like that in my spiritual
Yes.
journey where there was nothing wrong with being an open channel. I was very powerful, I was very connected, I was very clear, and I didn't have any integrity. I didn't have any discernment. I didn't have any boundaries. I didn't have any framework that
Well,
allowed me to do
why?
this work
Maybe you
in
didn't know a
integrity.
why, really. Is it kind of like
Sorry?
you didn't have a why yet?
Well, I felt like I had a why. I just felt like the why was connected to validation.
Oh, yeah, I can understand that, because we need
You
that in the
know?
beginning, especially in a business like setting.
Yeah. And like we humans need to, especially on our spiritual awakening journey, when everything, if you will, is invisible and magic, and even though it's not invisible, it is invisible to our eyes, to our human perception. And so we need to know that we're whole, or we need that confirmation that we are on the right track. And it
Yes.
can become a very slippery slope very quickly if we don't separate uh, us being human and having a human experience, and then us all being psychic
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Yeah. I
And
like that.
so this started the framework for what is now known as the Sovereign Healer School. And it is my sovereign psychic development school where I teach people, no matter what level of psychic you are, or what, I guess, experience you've had on your spiritual awakening, I have created a universal framework for every single person who wants to safely awaken and safely open their channel and safely perform energy healing and safely know what their gifts are. These universal frameworks that I have in a perfect order allows people to be able to do just that, which
That's so
is
cool.
open up your natural psychic abilities safely.
How did you develop that? How did you come up with your, like, did it was delivered to you kind of thing?
Great question, Lisa. I have no fucking idea.
That's real. It looks really great too. I mean, everything I've
Thank
read
you.
and looked at, it looks really successful. It looks like you're helping a lot of people too.
I have. It's been extraordinary. We've been able to have hundreds of people through the school already, and it's really only been about 3 cohorts or so, so like 3 rounds of it, since I have really locked in the framework of the school,
Yeah.
and it has been very successful. And I attest a lot of the growth coming from this entity experience, because then I had to reverse engineer, if you will, how to do this work safely. Because it was like, okay, I do
That makes
channel
sense.
extraterrestrial beings.
Yes.
That is something that feels natural for me.
Yeah,
I
me
do
too.
perform energy healing for clients. Fantastic. That is a part of my natural path of life. How do I make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
Where were my gaps?
Yeah.
First one was being ungrounded. Second one was
Yeah.
never cleansing my energy. Third one was always
Yes.
meditating wherever the fuck I wanted instead of actually having control. Fourth one was never having protection and never actually taking care of my aura.
And being
So
aware.
totally. So it was kind of like I was able to go, where were the gaps? Let me fill them with something that is sovereign, universal, and like I could fix it today, practical. And then
Yeah.
it's created the sovereign healer method, where now I teach people ground, shield, protect, and cleanse. Those are the 4 main principles: how to do it, when to do it, in what order. And then the 5 stages of energy healing, which is to remove, to restore, remove, restore, surge, seal, and open. And those 5
Sure.
steps are how I teach people how to safely and effectively basically remove anything that is unnatural in somebody's energy.
So cool.
Yeah.
So great
So
that you like can teach people that. And I feel like you can teach anyone.
I have
If
been
you have
able.
this, if you have a school where you're like, if you want to like have your psychic abilities, your intuition, all your energy work stuff available to you, and open up, wake up, whatever term you like,
Yep.
come to me, I'll do it. And you're doing it, and they're doing it. They're getting aware.
The
And that's
best
just
part is,
great. I can tell, because I'm a psychic. I know it's working. I've never, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I can just tell what you're doing is working.
thank you.
It's helping people.
It's
So,
helping people get what they want, you know?
yeah. And they don't, people don't really want, like, well, some people do, I guess. I mean, even like the nefarious people who want power.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, if they really looked at what they really wanted, is probably, their mom's love, And if people would look at those parts of themselves as interesting as they do, like the person they're in love with, and they do eventually, I think, like if they're sparked into the kind of love relationship or interest, example. I love love. Like I love diving into love, especially as a reader, because I think if we feel that way about somebody or anybody, even if we haven't felt that for ourselves, that's where we start.
Yep.
And it's like if there's someone who calls me and they're calling me about someone they're in love with, and they, like, let's say they've never called a psychic, or they only do when they fall in love, because it's like big and intense. It really is huge. And people call a psychic about love because it's like huge and it's mysterious. It's mysterious.
Yes.
Nobody's
And
got
it's
that
something
answer.
that we all desire. Like the things that we all have. We want the security, we want the freedom, we want the expansion, we
Yes.
want the abundance, we want those things. And I've just been able to eradicate, if you will, the 2 drivers that I think create the most harm in people's energies, which
What is
is
that?
moving from desire and moving from curiosity.
Yeah, you moving
Which,
from curiosity,
let me
really. I
explain.
understand the desire one, but I don't know about the curiosity. Do tell.
So there's a difference between curiosity and truth. There's a lot of things I'm
Oh yeah.
curious about. I would
Yeah.
love to
I'm
know how
very
to be able
curious.
to remote view into Area 51. I would love to be able to go to the Galactic Federation and have a conversation every day of the week.
Yeah.
I am so curious about all of these different things, but ultimately, what I am curious about and what is actually ultimate truth for my natural path are not always the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. So
So
maybe you're saying, like, not necessarily don't be curious, but discern what you're being curious about, maybe?
make sure that the things that you're curious about are actually in truth, meaning they feel right, not just that would be cool. Or I would love to know about that. Or oh my God, wait, they do that. I want to do that because
Yeah.
they do that. If
Have
they can do
ideal
that, I
have
can do that.
follow your ideals, follow your values, kind of is
Yep.
what you're saying, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
Like that.
I call it remove the variables. And this is hard for people because I find that healing becomes like consumption very quickly, where it's like we do all the things. And then we do all the things to stay in that certain state so that we can be the things.
But we're supposed to grow and grow and change and change. And
But
that's
then what
part
ends
of
up happening is that a lot of times we
point.
don't grow or
Yeah.
evolve. We
Yeah.
just are healing in a process and healing in a process and healing in a process instead of evolving
Growing
and
through that.
healing and
Yeah.
growing. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Well,
And
sometimes it does take a few lifetimes to do it, but no, you don't have to. You can like really do it in this lifetime, and if you want to, I mean, if
yeah,
you can, if you're capable of it, and I believe all of us are capable of
totally.
getting to the root of whatever really disturbs us and healing it. And I love like astrology. I've really been working on it for years. I'm not an astrologer, but I really love like learning about it and stuff.
Mm,
And in astrology, do you ever look into astrology at
I
all? Is that
love
interesting?
astrology. Yeah.
Okay, like Chiron, I think that shows us a lot of like looking where anybody's really freaking hurting. And other planets are aspects to Chiron.
Yeah.
But in listeners and watchers, if you don't know, Chiron is an asteroid in astrology that it's got looks like a little key in your ephemeris chart if you look at your natal chart. And it says it's called the wounded healer sometimes, but that's like if you want to look at that little key on your chart and what sign it is in, mainly just a little basic one. That can tell you like if it's mine's in Aries. So I'm always like, I love myself? Who am I? What's happening to me? I really work as hard. And it's right in conjunct with Jupiter, like on the same degree. It's like, oh my goodness. So, I didn't have much faith in myself moving
Yeah.
forward in my future, going into my future, which is what Jupiter is about: expanding, being better, being myself. I
Yes.
has had a hard time with that. And now as I'm older, I'm trying to heal that. And I'm right now I'm 50. So I just hit my Chiron, like healing phase number, whatever, number 5 or whatever. It's like, it's a cycle that we go through in astrology. So that's what
Mm.
I'm dealing and facing right now. And I have been, and it's been very interesting. It's like,
Mm.
it's supposed to be like a healing period. And I have like gone through a lot of traumas. I mean, going through in my head and like the
Mhm.
PTSD I've been suffering from and anxieties and stuff like that and grief. So I've
Mhm.
really been working through a lot of that during
Yeah.
this time period that lines up with the
Mm.
astrology, but it's
Mm.
part of what I want to do. I want
Yes.
to, I
Yes.
want to evolve myself. I want to be better, but why? What is that,
Uh,
what is that drive? What do you think that is that makes us want to better ourselves or
I
hopefully?
believe I believe that our soul is here to heal our interferences. Meaning, I believe that many of us have been through a lot of incarnations where we have been trying to master certain lessons. And if you
Yes.
would, our natal chart is like that, one aspect of maybe a road home or a path home to not just transcendence, but ultimately freedom as a soul.
Yes. Yes.
And so a lot of us, myself included, have these different roadblocks in our energy, these different karmic pieces, these different past life. I wouldn't call them failures, but let's just say that they were incomplete lessons. And so we come onto this earth to, I believe, to learn and grow and ultimately be free souls so that we are able to take, I guess, choice back into
Yeah.
how we want to continue as a soul. A
Yeah.
lot of souls are not free. A lot of souls, most souls, are just stuck in
They
a
don't know.
reincarnation loop on
Yeah.
earth and they don't even know it. Like they're like,
Forgot.
I'm gonna die. I'm like, yeah, but you're gonna come right back on earth. And like, I'm really hoping that I get to choose where I go after earth because I would love a more peaceful planet.
Yeah.
Personally,
Universe. Another
I
universe.
would like to be able to go where in the universe would I like to go? Not just like, wow, I need to master this lesson and I need to do it now. Like
How
there's
do you know you haven't already? Maybe you just came back to raise the vibe some. You don't know. You
oh, I
might
know.
be an ascended master and not know it yet. You
Well,
might be an alien and you wake up when you die. That's where you wake up in the other universe. Someone told me that's what happens to me when I die.
that
They
you
did a reading.
die and then go to another universe?
That's what he told me. I was from another universe in this reading. It was very interesting, and I don't know. I don't know if it's true, but
Yeah.
I do remember this place that I had the reading about,
Hmm.
and I had dreams about it and stuff. And but I kind of want to go back to something you said because it was like, oh, when you were talking, I just wanted to tell you this before it slips my mind. While you speak, you have this way of clearing out my aura. Are you doing that on purpose, or is it just
No,
happen? Okay,
I
because it's happening. It started happening about 10 minutes in when everybody we both started more relaxing more. And then when you were just speaking, like my whole air aura just cleared out like a breeze
oh,
went
good.
through it. And that is just really cool that you can do that. Has anyone told you do that?
I I am very familiar with how my presence can shift people.
Okay, good.
Very familiar. But it's not something I'm consciously doing. I just try
That's what I
to
was wondering. Yeah, you're doing it.
radiate.
It
I
feels
hope that you're
really good.
okay
You
with
probably
that.
have a
I'm
lot
not
of people
trying.
who do you have a lot of people who kind of crowd you sometimes and
I tend
touch
to
you and
have interesting encounters with people that are naturally really, really, really guided to me. And I might not always be like really, really, really guided
Wanting
to have
them
a
to be guided to
conversation.
you,
I'm
knowing
like,
that what's happening. Oh,
okay, thanks.
you do. You have that changing, the ability to like just make people feel good in the energy and the aura. So really what I feel is the aura, the energy.
Thank you. So
I feel cleared out. Like my spine feels like all the way up. I have scoliosis, everything. I don't hurt anywhere and I'm always hurting. And I do think a lot of it, the energies can interfere with physical and all that,
me too, yeah.
all together they work. And you do just have that way. So
Thank you
that
so
is
much.
something probably where you really did need to be protected early on, especially if you have that going on, people can take advantage of that and want to, and they
It
want
is something that I thankfully to this day have finally gotten kind of like under control, if
to.
you will.
Good.
But being so sensitive in the world has made it very hard for me to exist in the world.
I bet.
And
Yeah, me too.
yeah, it's not something that a lot of people talk about, just like the, if you will, the constant vulnerability
And
of going into
isolation.
the world when you
Yes.
can feel so much and you just want to go to the grocery store. Like I just want to
Yes.
be human, go do my thing and come back and not feel drained or like I picked something up. Like I can watch a TV show that has like drama in it and then completely embody that drama
Yeah.
and arguing with my partner. And I'm like, where did that bleed through come from? Like,
Yes, I can do that too.
you know what I mean? I'm like, girl, relax. Like, you're not a toxic lesbian. I'm like watching fucking, I'm watching some like queer love on Netflix right now. And then I'm like, oh, what if we're in a toxic relationship? He's like, will you relax?
When I think about it, you did that. No, that was the show. No,
That was
no.
you're gonna cheat on me too. I'm like, what is going on? Like, it's not.
Oh yeah, I don't like TV for that reason. It kind
I
of
know I have to be
implants
so
ideas
careful.
and all that. It's like TV and story. I used to be a writer. I was a ghostwriter. I love stories, but I got to the point where all the stories felt like they'd been told, and I was just burned out. But I do love stories, fiction, and but sometimes it gets in there and like
Yes.
it starts going a little spiral. So TV especially spiral into something horrible, like I don't like it too much. It
I call it a loop.
is like a loop.
So
Yeah.
when the song starts to play, right? And then it keeps replaying. And the issue with that is the more that I replay it, the more open my aura becomes. And so then I can create different leaks in my energy for different things
Yeah.
to infiltrate. And then something that it was had nothing to do with me, but now it's consumed me, you know?
That makes sense though. But as long as you're aware of it, you're still really young. I mean, I can't imagine where you're gonna be and where like I'm 50, you're 30. When you're like 20 years from now, I just can't imagine what you're gonna be doing if you're like able to clear out my aura over a screen from wherever you are. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Vancouver. Where are you?
Vancouver. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, I've never been. I'm quite a traveler.
Oh, come visit. This place is awesome. It's a party city. It's a great music city. It's
Cool.
the music everywhere all the time.
Oh, I love you so much.
Well, Victoria, where can the listeners? I just love this. I would love to. You just are just a wonderful guest. But where can the listeners find out your school, your podcast? Where can they find out about you?
So, thank you, Lisa. First, I've had such a good time connecting with you and chatting with you. Thank you for your time. And if everyone has continued to listen, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here.
Hmm.
You can find me very simply at Victoria Pippo, Pippo, Inc., Inc., like incorporated, but just the short form, and then .com. And really, like that's the place. You'll find stuff about my meditation membership. You'll find things about the Sovereign Healer School. And then you'll find some of my like more mini programs. I teach facilitators how to psychically protect their spaces. So if you're listening to this and you really want to do group work, Safe Space to Facilitate is a really great place to check out. And then otherwise, you can really just find all that on my website. So I trust.
Yeah, and I'll put that in the description of the
Thank you,
podcast,
Lisa.
listeners and watchers.
Perfect.
And I want to thank my sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app and website where you can get advice from psychics and empaths so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And I'm an advisor on Everclear under the name Lisa Russick. Used to be Lisa P, but now I'm my real name. My real name. But I love Everclear. Everclear is great. And they have an app. It's mainly an app, and you can get it in the Google Play Store under Everclear Advice App. And the website is everclear.com. So lastly, oh my gosh, I don't want to let you go. So I'm going to have to ask you for like a big, hard advice. Let's see, some advice. I really want to ask for advice to that person who just landed on this podcast because something just made them feel like it. Like, yeah, I feel like you kind of do that a lot, right? All through your life, you kind of feel like it, right? And you just feel drawn to something. I was like that. I feel drawn to it. I can go do it or just find out about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're drawn to beer, and then they really got caught on the what you described, where you feel leaks in your aura. Like they really related to that and want to learn how to protect that and be aware of it and discern what's happening when what's not happening.
Yep.
Told you I was going to get difficult on you.
I
So,
got
what would be like your first piece of advice to that person to, first of all, recognizing it and
Yep.
then protecting it
Yep.
or retaining it?
Great question. Thank you for asking. Okay.
You got this.
So the first thing that was actually coming through as I was listening was I got to teach about my 3 C's. So they are to cleanse, to command, and to close. These 3 C's, you can use them like rinse, lather, repeat. There's no too much. Okay. So someone has leaks, they are called here. They're trying to, contain their energy and learn how to protect it. The first thing is, I want you to think about cleansing like having a shower.
Yeah.
But for your aura.
Yeah.
Why does this matter? Because you have leaks. And when you have leaks, that's because you absorb too much. And when you absorb too much over time, this is where you get a lot of people who say, I'm an empath. I don't know what's mine. I don't know what's not mine. I don't know where I am and where the world is. I don't know.
Right.
Did I pick up something from them? This is when cleansing becomes important. So think about cleanse like the water element, and think about cleansing either actually having a shower or going into a lake or going into a river, or if that's not convenient all the time, which it's obviously not, you can imagine from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet, you're using a color, like you're having a shower. And you're imagining, let's use the example of white light. White is a very purifying light. You imagine white light from the top of your head all the way through. And you can even, if you are watching the video here, you can actually kind of brush your energy. And so now
Yes.
white light,
that.
you're brushing your energy top to bottom. And then we go into step 2, which is command. This is the thing that people are always the most stupefied by because they don't realize how obvious it was, but they just don't do it. You are a sovereign being of light. I am a sovereign being of light. A command over our energy, such as I'm using the white light, I, Victoria Pippo, am commanding over my energy that I'm absolutely unavailable to pick up anything in my energy that does not belong to me. Right? I am removing anything that is causing leaks in my energetic field and light body as I'm using the white light. And then the next part of this command is I'm calling back my natural energy. So first one is you're commanding what you're not available for. And then 2, well, what are you available for then?
Yes.
And that's the command. And it doesn't have to be like mine, but the idea is that you're really listening to your heart and you're asking yourself, what do I not want to be available for? Let that come out. Use the vocation of your voice. Use the strength of your song.
Yes. And listeners, if you don't want to talk, I used to be that way. Do it anyway.
You gotta, because
you won't regret it.
Only stays in your mind, right? Like if it's staying in your mind, then it's in your mind. When you use voice, you're using tone, you're using your soul, you're using energy and
using
vibration.
a chakra.
Exactly. Much stronger.
Yeah.
Yep. And then finally from here, right? So now you've done the step 1 cleanse, step 1 command, or step 2 command. Step 3 is close. I like to use close at the end of the night or after I do big spiritual work and or I've picked up a lot. And so I'm just setting an intention to close my energy from being able to be picked up from anything else outside of me. So you can actually imagine you're closing your chakras for the night. Imagine that you're not metabolizing any energy. You're setting that final intention. I am closing down my energy field from any loops, like we talked about today, any leaks, or any attachments. And if this is at nighttime, then we'll say, and I am drifting off to sleep now, waking up now, peacefully, regenerated, and safe. And so that's the 3 steps. If you've got leaks in your energy, or you're just on your spiritual awakening journey, these 3 steps, cleanse, command, and close, either together as a trio or separate on your own, you'll start to get your sovereignty back and actually start to feel yourself inside of time and space. And That's what we need more than anything.
Man, I love the 3 C's. That's really great. And
Right.
and when you spoke, listeners and watchers, did you hear the intonation of her voice? Like the I felt it. That's the juju, the energy, where I felt it with energy, the power and intention in there. And it's like, even if you don't feel it when you're saying it at first, listeners, the
Yep.
more you say those things out loud, they will resonate with everything.
Totally.
And
Because at first you're going to forget that you have that power.
yeah,
And it's going to feel like, oh, why am I doing that? But then you're going to realize that you do have the power.
we all do.
And something as simple as declaring that you're not available for something actually allows you to not be available for something.
That's true. That's true.
And so the more you do it, the more strength you're going to build. And so those of you who are listening, trust that. If at first it feels like weakness and ego and awkward, that's okay. Just keep repeating it and know that if it feels right, then over time it'll feel like strength.
That is so true. That is so true. And listeners and watchers, isn't she wonderful? I'm so glad you're here. Thank you again. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, Victoria Pippo, I am so glad you are here and came to be on my podcast. And lastly, I would love to thank the listeners and watchers. I love you guys. And Victoria, do you love the listeners and the watchers?
Well, but of course.
Of course she does. Why she's here.
Why would I be here if I didn't care about you guys and think you're great?
I love that. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great time wherever you may be. Peace out.